So I'm just going to pass the mic down. If you would introduce yourself and tell us. So we have three members from the church in Placentia, and I'll let them introduce themselves. From the Blessed Sacrament Episcopal Church in Placentia, and then we have a district. Sharon is with the wider region, correct?
Sort of. I'll explain.
Oh, you can explain. And then we have Alexa, who's with National Core, the developer that they've been working with. So that's to give you the story. Here we go. I'll pass the mic. Thank you.
Put that down and start it where it all began.
All right.
You started it all. So I'm Ned Berger. I'm the senior warden at Blessed Sacrament Church.
I'm Father Barrett Van Buren over at Blessed Sacrament. I also like to introduce Michael Bell, our Director of Housing Development with the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles with us. 25% of our churches are going to be committed to doing what we're doing.
Wow.
And good afternoon, Alexa Washburn. I am Senior Vice President of Acquisitions and Planning at National Community Renaissance. Most people call us National Core, or CORE for short. And we are a nonprofit, local community development organization, and we specialize in building high-quality, affordable housing paired with best practice supportive services.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sharon Futris, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Episcopal Communities and Services. And we're also a nonprofit celebrating our 100-year anniversary. We have what we call continuing care retirement communities, but we were founded by Sophie Miller to house widows of the clergy. So this is really getting us back to our roots. We're an institution of the diocese, so our role with this is facilitating between the developers and the churches to make the housing happen.
My name is Tom Johnson. I'm junior warden at Blessed Sacrament Church at Placentia.
Perfect. So I have two questions that I want to ask them. I'm just going to put it out in front, and then I'm going to let them address these two questions. And the first question is, why? What was the incentive for you guys, and maybe it goes back to Ned and Father Barrett, to say why? What motivated you guys to do this? Why did you care, and why did you want to consider this opportunity? And then the second part of that question is, talk to us about that process a little bit. What were some of the what have been some of the challenges? They're right in the midst of this, and they can share that. But talk to us about what are some of the challenges, and so those are the two questions. And Alexa, you can enter this conversation as well from your perspective on how that fits as well.
This whole process started in the fall of 2016 when the church was approached by a for-profit builder, and we thought this would be a great idea because our church sits on 3.8 acres of land, and most of it was dried up weeds. We couldn't afford to water it. It was an eyesore, and we had run through a lot of discussion about what we want to do with this land. We talked about putting a cell tower on it. Well, that wouldn't work because we have a very active preschool there, and that was not a wise idea. We talked about and were approached about putting community gardens in, and actually having a farming company come and use it as a place to grow crops. But when the for-profit company came in, we said, this is a good idea, because we're going to build houses, build apartments for seniors. And so we talked about it with the vestry, which is the lay leadership, and the congregation, and said, we're going to go to the diocese and talk to them. And that's when the bishop put us in contact with Episcopal Community Services, and they said, well, let's walk through this together. And that they connected us with CORE, National CORE, and another nonprofit, Jamboree Housing. We went through the discernment process, and it wasn't a knee-jerk reaction. It was a lot of prayer, a lot of discussion, a lot of discernment. Is this something for us, and why are we doing it? And after many restless nights, much time talking, having people mad, people leave, because we're going to ruin this beautiful church, it became fruition that we started building a project. And that's why we did it, because it's a ministry of the church. That is why we did it. When we talked about it as a senior warden then, I'm on my second sentence as senior warden. I know, I'll pay for my sins. But when we talked about it, I told the vestry and the congregation, if we're not doing this as a ministry, to care for the ministries of our church, to reach out in the community, don't do it. If we're doing it to pay salaries, pay for our operating expenses, this is not what we need this to do. Because that's the sign of an unhealthy church. For me, a healthy church is when you have vibrant, active ministries. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Alexa, because she was a key part of that.
And you hit the nail on the head, Ned, because for us, it was also our shared mission to serve the most vulnerable. For National Core, it's providing affordable housing, and particularly, we had made a conscious effort to expand our ministry, expand our mission within Orange County because of the great need that we talked about earlier in the numbers. And so that was really, it's that shared mission that provides the foundation that we both needed to have a healthy partnership. In addition, one of the opportunities that National Core sees is that one of the major landowners in the state of California, as well as in counties, are faith-based organizations. And so that is a huge opportunity for us to partner together to solve the housing crisis. There is land available, it's underutilized, and let's expand ministry in a way where we can provide housing. So for us, it was the shared mission as well. You want to add to that?
Go ahead, Sharon.
Yeah, so just to add on that, since we are kind of the third wheel, the third party, is ECS. We realize that not all of you go to college or school to be architects or engineers, contractors, land use planners, and we build high quality senior housing, but didn't have a lot of experience in the affordable side. It was an important part of our board's mission of getting back to our roots and how can we help our family within the Episcopal Diocese be able to use us as a resource because we do have experience with building and operating buildings. How can we help them know what questions to ask, the resources to seek out legal advice and other consultants so that they are making fully informed decisions, as well as vetting our different development partners. And so being able to bring them, the different developers, through the RFP process and giving them guidance on how to make that selection, and then really just being a resource to answer questions along the way. So we've been able to find a really great partnership with CORE and all of the churches that we're working with.
We already talked about the biblical perspective, but certainly our church was dedicated from the time I started 4 years ago as the rector, where people wanted to make ministry happen and to take care of those less fortunate, thinking of the other. There's a concept. And I was so excited to hear the people that were committed to this. And from day one, we went ahead and had everything from the design committee involved to people talking about their plans and thoughts, what's going to be happening to the church in the future. In fact, we are doing right now a discernment process for our whole congregation, starting off with the vestry first, and then moving into Bible study and into discussion of where God is calling all of us now and in the new year when we officially open in January. And we are excited to see what God has got in store. And someone had said to me the other day saying, it's incredible to see the church at the center of the people's lives. We will be at the heartbeat of the whole location. It's only 1.2 acres, 41% of our property is being used to take care of the senior citizens in our local community. And it's about time.
I grew up and was fortunate enough to have Christ in my life as a young man. But I went to the dark side. And at one time I was living in Newport Beach. I was selfish, self-centered, egotistical. And it was taken away. Ended up in a motel room on Harvard Boulevard. You can imagine what that must be like. I had to move out once a month because it was a motel, and if I was there more than 30 days, they lost their zoning, etc. So once a month for 18 months, I spent out on the streets in a bus stop. Rain or shine, I was covered in water when a bus would come by late at night and I'd fallen asleep. That's one night. I had no idea how the homeless survive. The need for this ministry is enormous. But with that need for housing comes need for food, for assistance, etc. One of the things that CORE, let Alexa talk a bit more about this, is on our campus there will be people that will assist the residents with needs. If it's just the education on how to get on a computer and discover the internet, etc., look for particular assistance programs that they can find, there are people on site that will help them do that. The biggest thing to me is when our parish as a whole realize this was a ministry and not to put dollars in the coffin. That's the key. You do this for the right reason, to put others before yourselves.
Just to expand on, we will be providing, our Hope Through Housing Foundation is our sister nonprofit. And so we have built, there's a parish hall on the site for the church, but also built into the new senior residential community is a community center where we will provide supportive services on site through our Hope Through Housing Foundation, through our partners at the county, and through our relationship with the church. I know we're already starting to talk about ways that the congregation can serve the residents. Particularly 21 of the 65 apartment homes are set aside for those permanent supportive housing. So those are our seniors that are homeless or at risk of being homeless. You know, how many of you know grandparents that maybe every 3 months they're rotating from their daughter's house to then their son's house? They don't have a stable permanent home. And so 21 of these units will be set aside for those seniors. The other remaining units are for our seniors age 62 and better. But it's really being able to provide those supportive services on site. They're accessible, they're convenient, everything from health and wellness, so focusing on their nutrition, socialization, getting them out of their apartment homes, and creating community. And boy, we cannot wait for the relationship of the volunteers, perhaps with the preschool on site, and to have that intergenerational connection. Really excited for that.
It's true. Tracy, our director of the preschool, is considering having a program where we adopt grandparents to be able to come and read the stories and be with the children. We have 70 students, children at our location. So to have that incorporated is really exciting.
Well, did you want to say something? Did you want to add something else?
okay.
So I think you get to see this beautiful picture of amazing ministry that's opening up to the church, that's reinvigorating the congregation as they see new opportunities to love their neighbors. There is benefit coming to them and their own campus, because I don't know if you guys have had a chance, but I would encourage you to drive by it right off of Kramer, behind the post office. If you turn back, I'm not sure what the street is, but it's right there.
Angelina,
Angelina.
1314.
Okay, so you should go take a look at it, so you can see they had a brand new preschool building that's being built, right? Is that
New
or it's
parish
just
hall.
Parish Hall.
Parish
a
hall.
new parish hall, and there's also some finances that are coming to the congregation now, and I love that you guys really were stewarding that and saying this isn't why we're just not going here to get this financial need made. We really need to decide, is this about God's heart or not? So I love that you guys have modeled that amazingly well. And so I don't know if you have anything else that you want to talk to about the challenges. I know it just, when did you say it started? It started, when was that?
That's
Like a
one of
couple
the
days ago or
challenges.
something? Yeah. Okay.
Go back, yes.
So now the challenges.
You got 2 minutes.
Well, the city of Placentia has been wonderful. They have been a great partner all along. The neighbors, as was spoken earlier, not so much. But what we did is a cooperative effort of having, 3-4 community meetings, more than
At
that?
least, and door to door.
Probably
With
Door to
city.
door, you and
Probably
I.
more than fingers and toes than we have. And listening to neighbors and what their concerns are, what their complaints, and addressing them. Architecturally, we're gonna do 3 stories. And the neighbors fearing that we were going to be intrusive into their backyard, we scaled it back to 2 stories. Adjusting the parking lot to have a better sound barrier. And so we weren't, the variance was more. What else did we do?
Well, the main thing was the height. We always try to maintain a very consistent complementary architectural style as well, because we wanted the church, the sanctuary, to still remain the central focus of the campus. And it has a very unique architecture if you go by and visit, and once we're in operation, we're happy to give tours, by the way. But really carrying over that architecture from the church, so it blended in with the community and the single family neighborhood behind it, and then the commercial across the street. Yes, the big heartache, I would say, was the height of the buildings. We originally proposed 3 stories. We dropped them down to 2 stories, but had an amazing architect that was able to maintain the unit count. The number of apartments always stayed at 65. That was our goal. And we were able to do that through a good design.
One of the challenges also for us was the Children's Learning Center. Being that you have a preschool in the middle of a construction zone, that was a major challenge. The thing is that CORE went above and beyond in working together to make it as beneficial, I guess, as helpful as it could be. But the thing is that we all work together as a team. And that was important because open communication was critical. We had weekly meetings. We had involvement with from the Children's Learning Center to our parish, to ECS, to CORE, all working together during this whole, it's almost a year and a half.
It was right around June of 2022.
Yeah, and it's been constant working together, and it has worked, and we are excited to see the accomplishments.
One of the things too, we were an older parish. The church land it sits on now was dedicated in 61 or 62. And as most churches throughout the years, we had parishioners that were plumbers, electricians, carpenters, etc. And as gifts to the church, They put in a water line here, a gas line here, electric wiring here, etc. This speaks to the partnership with CORE that we have at Blessed Sacrament. When we started the grading back at the beginning, we were uncovering water lines, electric lines, gas lines that no one knew were in the ground where they were. Because this was bootlegged, for lack of a better word, by parishioners trying to help the church, they would open up water geysers throughout the property. It shut the water off at the school, it shut the water off at the parish hall before it was demolished, etc. And the guys would work overtime to get it repaired so that it was serviceable. First and foremost because of the young children in the preschool, but secondly because the parish needed to function throughout this construction. There was a lot of dust, and they would water the grounds continually, trying to keep it at a minimum. But I can't express enough the cooperation at their expense to make this come to be. We were behind almost 2.5 months because of the atmospheric flow. There is what they call a dry well on our campus. It's 60 by 60 by 12 feet deep. It is there to gather the runoff because it's a lot of blacktop. There's a lot of hardscape, but there's also a lot of native plants on the campus all around. But when that filled up, think of how big and how many gallons must be in there. They had a pump running 3 days straight, water trucks coming in having to be loaded out, because you can't just dump it into the curb. That's what the well is there for, so that doesn't happen at the city of Placentia. That costs a fortune. They swallowed that. There will be problems, but the end goal is worth it.
So, I know we're getting close on time. I think there are gonna be challenges, obviously, and yes, we did start a long time ago. We also did have a little thing, unexpected called COVID. Many of you may remember. But I think what we wanna express is have patience. It's going to take time, there will be ups and downs, but have patience. It's, realistically a 3 to 5 year process. So making sure that when you're talking to your membership that they're realistic about timelines, but also be thoughtful in your discernment on your partner. We've vetted a lot of partners, we've worked with a lot of partners. We enjoy working with National Core, but it really does make a difference when you do get in tight situations or unusual circumstances. Having a solid relationship with your partner really makes all the difference.
And one of the reasons we were able to absorb that cost is because we're full service, so we have everything in-house. We're builders, we're general contractors, and we'll also be managing the property and have an actual property manager that lives on site. So having that all in-house, I think, allows for that quality control and able to absorb some of the costs. I was just gonna add 2 more things because they're related to the legislation, SB4, because that will tremendously help the timeline. It took 5 years, largely because of our entitlements as well, is that we had to go through a general plan amendment and a zone change to accommodate multifamily on site. And so and then there's the environmental documents, the analysis that goes with that. During that time, we were able to get a little relief. So one of the first legislative bills that passed has to do with parking and allowing shared parking on church campuses. So that was very beneficial to this project because parking and traffic was one of the concerns we heard from the NIMBYs, but the YIGBYs, yes, in God's backyard, we prevailed. But Senate Bill 4, what it will do, and hoping that it passes, is that it would allow multifamily affordable housing by right. So whether or not the zoning is in place, this would trump that. So, this is important, and so if you can advocate for Senate Bill 4 and other affordable housing legislative tools, statewide within your city, the county, it all helps.
Did you want to say final words, Father Barrett?
Well, I just want to say thanks be to God for this incredible team here that has made it all possible, and that we are very thankful for what God's got in store for us.
Well, we are super proud of you guys as well.